I have a shop in Portland. It's Covington's motorcycle shop, and I repair and service mostly late model Harleys. Most of the builds lately are, my own personal builds, but I have done some builds up there for customers. The story of the Heart of Gold starts with a rusty old front end. Being a vintage motorcycle enthusiast, I collect parts everywhere I can, every opportunity. So I suspected it was a Sugar Bear front end. I had Sugar Bear look at it. He confirmed it. He told me it was built in 1973. He didn't take any time at all to figure that out. It was really funny. He just rolled it over and looked at a threaded hole, and he says, 1973. And I said, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, because in 1974, that hole would have went clear through that bracket. And he wanted to do the restoration for me on this front end. It's a pretty powerful story, really, because, at the time in 1973, Sugar Bear was about 33 years old and really struggling in the LA area, trying to get a name for himself and building these front ends. And to think that the same hands that built it in 1973 came back around 40 years later, bringing that old worn out front end back to life and back to its full luster, and and he had it for a while. Pretty sure he didn't want to let her go, but he knew I was going to do something nice with it and got it back. It was beautiful, and then the build started. I recalled another fella I had met in my past that built a gorgeous bike. It was a 61 panhead, but he had gold plated his engine cases, and he had done that in the early 70s. He rode that motorcycle to all the events, not as a show bike, and paid no regard, rode that thing up and down gravel roads. And I always thought that was so cool, because he didn't baby the bike either, he rode it. Well, it was so beautiful and warm, that engine that he had done, even though the gold was all, blistered and tattered and gravel splattered, but it was still beautiful. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. The Heart of Gold really was named by Michelle, my girlfriend, and I told her the story of Sugar Bear on the front end and this dude that was an old friend of mine that lived a rich life and had a good heart, and so she named it, and it stuck. And so I wanted to do a wishbone frame. I had basically a 49 frame. I was going to build this bike similar to what Sugar Bear had done with Gorgeous. And so, knowing that the frame was 49 and I had a 49 engine, I happened to have a 49 transmission as well, and I had a set of 48 to 50 panhead tanks, and went ahead and started fabrication work on the frame. There was several folks in the antique world crying foul when I started cutting up old Harley parts, but that this bike was going to be special, and it was going to be a chopper, and it was going to be a chopper with good bones, original Harley stuff. To cut the frame apart, I had to straighten the twisted cradle, raked the neck to 42 degrees, added 6 inches in the down tubes, 3 inches in the backbone, and then I pushed the axle plates, or the rear section of the bike, back by 2 inches, lengthening the bike. I took those 49 tanks and sectioned them, decided to put a shallow tunnel and to set it down over the backbone a little bit. At that point, I knew it was going to be a skinny bike, a long bike, like a runway model. This thing was long and beautiful. I went through the engine, got things reconditioned, balanced, resized, bored, rebuilt it. Went through the transmission, rebuilt that, went ahead and had my plating work done, the 24 karat gold plating on the engine. The carburetor's even gold plated, that's kind of cool. Used a wine cork for the air cleaner in the center. That's sort of a neat deal. Lots of nickel to complement the gold. Other parts were restored, Model 58 generator, the Kelsey rear wheel assembly, star hubs, stainless exhaust, and tombstone taillight, the foot clutch assembly, brake pedal assembly, all the linkages, all the bracketry, all of that was hand fab and nickel plated. Everything on that bike, including the tires, is either restored or hand built, with the exception of that rear fender that was donated to me, and it's sort of a reproduction of an old fender. Using original Harley parts, it's sort of a discipline that I employ with the bikes I've built in the past and the bikes I'll build in the future. I don't want to use readily available catalog parts. I'd rather spend a weekend bringing something that's garbage back to life, that's original. So I know it doesn't mean a whole lot to a lot of people in the chopper world, because you're supposed to be able to get away with anything, really. And in the antique world, you know, points bikes, that stuff's everything. All the details are really important. But I'm sort of in the middle there. I'm the chopper guy that keeps them pretty honest, you know, like they should be, in my opinion.